my name's Marilyn, and I'm what gets called an ally of disabled people. I'm not disabled myself. In York, I'm involved with the York Human Rights City Network, who has said very clearly that the permanent ban on blue badges in the large parts of the city centre breaches human rights of disabled people.
It first came about at the start of COVID, when understandably the council were interested in keeping people away from each other. There was a 2-metre ban in at that time. This was accepted by most people of the disabled community as a sensible precaution to bring in at that time. When the major issue was gone, in that there was no longer a 2-metre rule, we thought this was fine. We would go back to being able to park in the city centre, close to the facilities where those with certain disabilities needed to be. What happened, in fact, was that the council then said this was on security grounds and it was no longer safe to bring vehicles into the town centre. Questions were asked. It was quite obvious that the council had another view on bringing vehicles into the city centre.
I've spoken to people who are very angry about it, and that message that it's giving to disabled people, that somehow they are not important enough to be allowed into the city centre.
I have lived in York all my life. I am York born and bred. I'm very annoyed at the situation of allowing disabled people into the city centre. We want to come into York. We're not allowed to.
York Council permanently banned disabled people using their blue badge to park or be dropped off in large parts of the city centre from November 2021. It is now proposing to close Castle Car Park on the edge of the foot streets, which has 31 blue badge spaces, in order to create an open space known as the Castle Gateway Plan.
We're in the Tower Street car park. This is one of the car parks that is of most use to those with blue badges currently, and it's under threat because the council will be looking to remove this car park and build over it to make it more attractive to York and visitors. 31 blue badge spaces won't be available.
This is St George's Fields car park, where City of York Council expect disabled people to park after the closure of Castle Car Park, with the loss of 31 blue badge spaces, and here there are only 4 spaces. The distance from here to Tower Street is 219 metres, which is far too far for many people to travel.
The blue badge ban, it's impacted on me because I like to go out on a night, meet friends, and I don't feel safe to do that on a night anymore because you have to be dropped off at a car park, and it's not always safe with a guide dog to use a car park because they work in straight lines. So if there's a car coming behind you and the dog's got no route to follow in the car park, that's dangerous.
There's a lot of misunderstanding about blue badges. So the council have said, well, it's fine, we'll put blue badge spaces on the edges of the area where blue badge holders are banned from. Now, some of those may work for some blue badge holders, but they won't work for all of them. And that's the issue. There are people for whom they need to be able to park close to where they need to be. A car, for some blue badge holders, is their safe space. They need to be able to get back to it. There are also people who need to get back to their car because that's where their medication is and they need to be able to administer their medication. That's no good if you're parked some distance away or at the end of a bus journey.
Within York, there exist more challenges for the disabled community. Flick takes us through the city and shows us just some of them.
This is Spurrier Gate, which is the entrance to Coney Street, effectively. We can see that it's 552 metres from the blue badge bays in St George's Field car park. A long way for disabled people to travel. We're now at the entrance to Coney Street itself, and you can see here how uneven these surfaces are with the sets, which again is very difficult to traverse and causes a major trip hazard. These are dished gullies, which you'll find everywhere within the central area in York. They should not be used because they cause problems for anybody with wheels. An example of how the paving hasn't been touched since the 70s and 80s. The camber or crossfall on both sides of the road is really severe. So it tips wheelchair users into the road, and because it's heavily used by buses, I wouldn't feel safe to go down here at all. It's also not helped by businesses who put their rubbish out on the street, blocking the width of the pavement and forcing pedestrians to walk into what is a busy carriageway. This is an example of outdoor dining done badly. As you can see, there are no drop curbs in order to get round it, and again it's difficult for blind and visually impaired people to navigate this kind of thing.
Hello, my name is Glynis. I am severely sight impaired. I've lived in York since 1996. Gradually over the years my eyesight has deteriorated. About 2016 I decided that it's time to apply for a guide dog. Before COVID we were getting around York city centre and I felt really confident with it. Since COVID, things have changed quite significantly. York city centre now is far more inaccessible for me. I feel less confident going around. I find that the streets are cluttered. There are A-boards everywhere. There are street cafes everywhere where at one time I could walk along a pavement and know where I was going. All of a sudden I'm getting tangled up with tables and chairs. I find that this is happening more and more often now because the streets just seem to be so cluttered and inaccessible.
This is an example of outdoor dining done correctly. The pavement cafe is situated on the carriageway, and that leaves the pavement free so that all pedestrians can use it unimpeded.
York Council has said it needs to keep blue badge vehicles out of the centre to allow pavement cafes to flourish, but also to protect from potential terrorist attacks. Bill has something to say in response to this.
The other part of the security aspect that was looked at was I contacted the Blue Badge teams in various cities across the UK, and this included Leeds, Liverpool, Bristol, and Liverpool being the latest UK city to actually have a terrorist incident. It seemed strange that they were quite happy to invite me into the city centre to park with my blue badge. So the York argument didn't seem to hold much water. It's imperative that we get the council to reverse their current thought on the access to the York City Centre for those people with disabilities. The blue badge ban, it's stopping people running a normal life, and we want that to be put to one side, see common sense, for the council to actually look at their own hearts and think, well, if there was a member of their family in the same boat, what would they like to see in their city?